The ball leaves Brock Purdy's hand, cuts through the Santa Clara air, and finds Purdy Stribbling in the end zone twice. That picture says more than any ordinary August practice. It shows an offense building trust while the rest of the roster gets warnings nobody can afford to brush aside. Power is emerging in the trenches, key starters are getting closer, and a question about Christian McCaffrey shook this fanbase before a forceful answer arrived. Today we're breaking down what every development means for this title chase. If you demand a team built for January, subscribe to 49ers Express right now. Start with a feeling every fan recognizes before it ever shows up in a practice report. When a quarterback keeps throwing with conviction to the same receiver in tight moments, something is growing. Brock Purdy looked sharp against the Chargers, but the detail that could shake up an internal competition was the continued rise of his connection with Purdy Stribbling. According to Matt Barrows, the young receiver scored 2 touchdowns in the red zone. This was not one isolated play buried in the middle of practice. It was another answer from a player who has become one of the most intriguing names in camp. That hits differently because chemistry is not handed out in the locker room, and it does not appear just because somebody gets moved up the depth chart. It is built through repetition. Purdy understands where Stribbling will break on the route. Stribbling senses when the ball has to come out early. Together, they are starting to turn tiny openings into completed plays. In the red zone, where the field shrinks and the defense has less ground to protect, that kind of timing is gold. The 49ers need targets who can win quickly, show Purdy a clean window, and let him trust the read without hesitation. Stribbling still has work ahead of him. Of course he does. 2 touchdowns in one joint practice do not guarantee a role, snaps, or a spot in the rotation. But every clean rep forces the coaching staff to consider a much more exciting question. How far can this partnership go if Stribbling keeps getting opportunities with Purdy? For a roster that plans to fight for the top of the NFC, finding young production in camp is more than a feel-good story. It is the healthiest way to build real depth without leaning entirely on veteran reputations. There is another quiet effect at work here. Trust speeds up decisions. When Purdy believes Stribbling will arrive exactly where they planned, he does not have to hold the ball and wait for visual confirmation. Saving half a second can separate a clean catch from a contested throw. That difference gets even more valuable when the space gets tight and the pass rush closes in. That brings Mike Evans into focus. He is still trying to recover lost ground after missing a significant amount of practice time. During the session, he left the field with his left foot and ankle wrapped and covered in ice. Kyle Shanahan later explained that Evans exited because of quad tightness. The immediate question is not whether Evans has a better resume than Stribbling. It is how much time the veteran will have to build the same timing with Purdy that other targets have already established. Purdy has chemistry with Robinson and Deebo Samuel, and now Stribbling is forcing his way into that conversation through the strength of his camp. That raises the competitive pressure without diminishing Evans. This offense becomes more dangerous if the veteran finds his rhythm while the young receiver keeps climbing. But Stribbling should not be slowed down while everyone waits for another connection to mature. If Purdy trusts him near the end zone, Shanahan needs to keep testing that bond against different coverages, physical contact, and changing situations. August is built for discovering who can turn opportunity into something useful. Stribbling is making noise in the exact place where a receiver earns permanent space in his quarterback's memory. When the room disappears, and somebody still has to finish the drive with a touchdown. If the offense found a partnership capable of lifting the crowd, the defense answered with violence right in the middle of the fight. Osa Odigizua spent the practice tormenting the Chargers' offensive line. Reports that he was essentially unblockable match what truly matters in a joint practice. Rep after rep, he broke into the backfield and forced the opposing offense to account for him. That kind of dominance can redraw an entire defense. Interior pressure crowds the quarterback, wrecks the base of the throw, and prevents the play from developing on a comfortable schedule. An offense can slide help toward a tackle when an edge rusher takes over. It is much harder to hide a problem exploding directly in front of the quarterback. For the 49ers, watching Odigizua drive the protection backward delivered a powerful answer on an afternoon when the secondary had real trouble. Fred Warner made his impact felt too, forcing a fumble during the session. That is not a throwaway detail added to the report just to balance the mood. Warner represents the emotional standard of this defense. Even when one unit is struggling, he hunts for the play that can flip possession and put control back in San Francisco's hands. Pressure up the middle and a forced fumble create the kind of combination that wins real games. One rushes the decision, the other punishes the mistake. The front's performance does not erase what went wrong behind it. Justin Herbert and the Chargers receivers found ways to attack the secondary, and the film will demand honest corrections. But reducing the entire afternoon to that weakness would ignore the answer coming from the trenches. A contender's defense does not need to win every August snap. It needs to uncover weapons, identify cracks, and prove it can respond when an opponent finds a rhythm. Odighizuwa was that disruption. Warner was the reminder that any play can suddenly become a change of possession. The discomfort in the back end is still there, but now it comes with a solution that starts up front. Speed up the quarterback's clock before the coverage is asked to survive for too long. If that interior force carries into game action, the secondary will not have to live on an island for every critical down. After all that contact, Kyle Shanahan delivered updates that immediately changed the calendar. Nick Bosa and Christian McCaffrey are both progressing well, and McCaffrey could return to practice sometime this week. For a fan base that feels its chest tighten whenever either name appears near an injury update, hearing that progress brings real relief. Still, the value comes from a return that lasts, not from winning some imaginary race against August. Michael Williams is dealing with a different timeline. Shanahan called the rookie a long shot to play in Week 1, even though Williams continues to make good progress. Imagining the opener without a young piece of that defensive line is frustrating, but it also makes Odighizuwa's performance more important. If Williams needs additional time, every available defender has to prove he can hold up the front until the rotation is whole again. The next measurement will be much more concrete. Several starters are expected to play in Thursday's second preseason game, once again against the Chargers, and Purdy could be one of them. That turns every joint practice mistake into material the coaches can correct immediately. The secondary struggled to contain Justin Herbert and his receivers. Now the staff can clean up communication, technique, and positioning before some of those starters face the same uniforms in an actual game setting. That challenge is exactly why San Francisco wanted this matchup. Purdy, Stribbling, Black, Odighizuwa, and Warner supplied encouraging signs. The coverage exposed urgent work. A comfortable practice would have protected egos and hidden flaws. This one delivered resistance, discomfort, and a short deadline for the team to answer. Once the season counts, nobody will accept August as an excuse. For now, finding the weakness and attacking it in the very next practice is a useful win. The preseason score will be secondary. The technical response, especially on the back end, will tell us whether Herbert's success taught this group something or simply exposed a problem that is still breathing. That answer matters much more than any clean stat line on Thursday night. Christian McCaffrey's name did not stay confined to the injury report. Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk floated the possibility that the absence for tightness could be used as pressure for more money. The theory gained traction because McCaffrey has no guaranteed money left on his current deal, and because the recent contracts for Bijan Robinson and Gibbs moved the running back market. At 30 years old, McCaffrey could theoretically seek more financial protection while his value remains enormous. It is one possible reading of the timing, nothing more. There has been no public demand, announced standoff, or action from McCaffrey that turns that idea into a contract dispute. Still, the timing gave fans room to look at the calendar, remember how much this offense depends on him, and feel that old discomfort creeping back in. Are we watching simple physical caution, or is there a conversation happening that is not fully surfaced yet? But faithful, this is the part nobody should ignore. Ian Rappaport reported that McCaffrey is legitimately dealing with tightness, pushing back on the idea that this is a financial hold-in. According to the NFL Network Insider, the issue does not sound concerning, and its timing so close to the new deals for Robinson and Gibbs is a coincidence. Rappaport added that there may have been check-ins about more guaranteed money or an extension, but those conversations did not go anywhere. That changes the weight of this story. The contract angle was not invented out of thin air, because the structure of McCaffrey's deal naturally invites questions. But the strongest information currently available points toward a minor physical issue that the team is managing. The past explains why nobody can completely relax. In 2024, a problem first viewed as minor was eventually connected to tendinitis, and McCaffrey appeared in only 4 games that season. Rappaport acknowledged that history while still expressing confidence about this situation. That concern has been earned by a scar this fanbase still remembers. It is impossible to hear tightness around McCaffrey and feel nothing. The memory of 2024 makes every quiet day feel heavier, even when the current reporting sounds much more encouraging. Defending McCaffrey does not require mocking fans who are worried. It requires judging what each source can actually support. Florio presented a theory built around timing and financial incentives. Rappaport delivered reporting that the tightness is real and should not sideline the running back for long. Shanahan also said McAffrey could return this week. Put those three pieces together, and the picture looks like caution, not confrontation. I want a real temperature check from this fan base. Does Rappaport's explanation settle you down? Or does the memory of 2024 still carry more weight? Drop your answer in the comments. Your heart is allowed to be suspicious. The analysis, for now, has to follow the strongest information available. And that information points to McAffrey protecting his body, not using it as leverage in a negotiation. The next practice appearance will tell us more than another round of theories ever could. This day did not leave us with a perfect picture of the 49ers. It left us with something more useful. Purdy found a level of trust with Stribbling that can produce points. Odigizua and Warner answered when the secondary gave ground. Key players are moving closer to returning without reckless shortcuts. Even the tension around McAffrey received a firmer explanation. The challenge now is turning all those signals into answers on the field. Faithful, let me know where you stand. Do you agree this roster came out of practice stronger than it looked threatened? Or is the secondary still the dominant concern? Leave your take, subscribe to 49ers Express, and come back tomorrow. Every detail matters here because the target is still a championship.